Now to an exclusive. President Trump's proposed tax cuts in the One Big Beautiful Bill will lead to historical growth.
Last night, Republicans in the House passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the most significant piece of legislation in years.
You may have heard one big beautiful bill floating around Congress.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
The One Big Beautiful Bill, as we call it. But ultimately, we want to vote for one big beautiful bill. But our big beautiful bill, as I call it, our big beautiful bill. Looking to get the one great big beautiful bill. It would be the greatest tax cuts in history.
Donald Trump is calling it the One Big Beautiful Bill. But with a projected $3.8 trillion deficit and major changes to taxes, healthcare, and clean energy, this so-called beautiful bill could be the most radical budget shift in decades. Even Elon Musk, the man Trump appointed to cut government waste, says the bill is disappointing and dangerous. So what's really in it? Who wins? And what's it going to cost you?
It's called the One Big Beautiful Bill, and it will be the biggest bill ever passed in our country's history. It will include the biggest tax cuts, regulation cuts, military supremacy, and just about everything else. We will cut more than $1 trillion in wasteful and unnecessary spending. And in the next fiscal year, it'll all be done. We're going to have something that you won't even believe. We will end inflation.
Officially named the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, Trump's newest legislation passed the House by a single vote, 215 to 214, after weeks of party line debate. Trump says it's the most beautiful piece of legislation you've ever seen. But beauty, it turns out, is in the eye of the billionaire.
This bill will be the single most pro-small business, pro-family, and pro-American worker legislation ever. This bill will give Americans the largest tax cuts in our nation's history.
At its core, the bill makes Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent, locking in lower corporate tax rates and income brackets that were due to expire this year. It also eliminates taxes on tips, overtime pay, and auto loan interest, popular with service workers and small business owners. But here's the flip side. The bill slashes Medicaid and SNAP, also known as food stamps. It eliminates billions in green energy subsidies, and it adds $150 billion in new defense spending. Trump says it's pro-jobs. Critics say it's a Trojan horse for deregulation and corporate tax relief.
Then we take in the Republican budget would add $3.8 trillion to that deficit. It will do that over 10 years. And how are they going to get those $3.8 trillion of tax breaks? Well, let me just outline who those tax breaks are going to go to. $96 billion a year are going to go to people who make over $1 million a year. If you are a millionaire in America, you are going to get about $82,000 a year of tax breaks. And if you are making under $100,000, you get about $750 in tax breaks.
Now let's talk numbers. According to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, the Big Beautiful Bill will add $3.8 trillion to the national deficit over the next decade. That means more borrowing, more interest payments, and higher risks if the economy takes a downturn. By 2030, the US could be spending more on debt interest than on education or infrastructure combined. And here's the kicker. Even Elon Musk, who runs the Department of Government Efficiency, is against it.
So, I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
If Trump's closest billionaire ally is tapping out, that says a lot. This isn't just debt. It's debt without a growth plan. We've seen this movie before, in the 1980s with Reagan, and again with George W. Bush. Big tax cuts, big military spending, and big crashes soon after.
These guys are actually out there making history by taking away from hardworking families, from people down on their luck, from seniors, from little babies, so that a handful of billionaires and corporate CEOs can get more giveaways from the government. That is the Republican plan. Billionaires win, everyone else loses.
So who's cashing in, and who's getting left behind? Let's start with the winners. Defense contractors are celebrating. The bill boosts Pentagon spending by $150 billion, with no new oversight attached. Big oil and gas win big too. With green energy credits repealed, fossil fuel companies are already expanding drilling permits, especially in Alaska and Texas. And, of course, the top 1% continues to benefit from corporate loopholes and estate tax exemptions that remain untouched. Meanwhile, Trump's donor base is enjoying targeted tax relief, including industries like real estate, finance, and tech. But if you work in solar energy, watch out. Companies are already announcing layoffs. Low-income Americans will face cuts to healthcare and food assistance, with Medicaid eligibility tightening and SNAP benefits shrinking by up to 20%. Public schools are also on the chopping block. Title I funding for high-poverty districts quietly slashed.
13.7 million Americans. 13.7 million Americans are the number of people in this country whose health care are going to be stripped in this bill. Now, Republicans are going to try to tell you every single distraction in the book from that essential number. I want people at home to understand that Medicaid and the federal matching funds for Medicaid can make up 30 to 40% of some of the state budgets that we have going on back in your home. Republicans have put this bill together, rushed it together in a matter of hours on the back of a napkin, shaking it, walking out of the White House, and brought it right here to this floor. They are defunding Planned Parenthood. They are ending tons of Medicaid coverage for 13.7 million Americans, including Affordable Care Act coverage as well. And if you want to get an abortion and have a silver plan on a healthcare plan that you paid for, you will also be affected by this legislation as well.
And she's not wrong. For every dollar saved at the top, there's a dollar taken from someone who can't afford to lose it.
This is a budget. This is a budget that imposes a tax on working people, a tax on patients, creating new out-of-pocket expenses, breaking the foundational promise of this president's campaign to lower costs for working people.
So what does this actually mean for you? If you're a server, Uber driver, or warehouse worker, you might see a small tax break. Your tips are no longer taxed. But if you rely on Medicaid, that coverage may disappear within 2 years. If you or a family member works in clean energy, especially in solar or EV tech, your job could be in jeopardy. And if you're planning for your child's education, expect fewer federal resources. This bill does nothing for public school funding. According to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, the national debt per U.S. household could rise by $30,000 by 2035 under this bill. That's the legacy of this legislation. More debt, fewer services, and more pressure on the next generation to pay for today's politics. The big, beautiful bill might sound catchy, but underneath the branding is a dangerous mix of debt, deregulation, and defunding. The rich get richer. The working class gets talking points. This isn't just economics. It's a values test. And the message here is clear: profits over people. If you want to know where America is headed, just follow the money. And right now, it's heading straight into the pockets of the powerful.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one big, beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the DOGE efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was. We have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill, but the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to. We'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle-income people of our country, low and middle-income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and, it's got a way to go. But I have to say, Speaker Johnson and Thune have done an incredible job. John Thune has done a fantastic job, and they're working together with me and others. And I think we have an amazing, if we pull this off, remember, we have 0 Democrat votes because they're bad people. There's something wrong with them. They'll let people pour into our country. Single biggest problem is we had 21 million people pour into our country, probably higher than that. And they're people that weren't supposed to be here. And many of those people are bad. Murderers, drug dealers, the mentally insane. They were closing mental institutions all over the world, not South America, all over the world. They're coming into our country, and we're getting them out. We're having a hard time because some judges aren't making it very easy for us, and it's tough enough. And they approved that. They allowed that to happen to our country. We don't have one Democrat vote. And if I were a Democrat, I'd be voting for this bill, and I'd get elected to any position I want as a Democrat. They're crazy. They're voting for a 65% tax increase. And they're only doing it for hatred. They're not doing it for any reason. They know it's terrible. Terrible politics, in my opinion. But so we have no Democrat votes. That means we have to get almost all Republican votes. And I think we're very close to doing that. I think it'll be very successful. Yeah, please.